Okay, well then welcome everyone to our Faculty of Education, Deaf and Hard of Hearing Teacher Education Program Information Night for 2024. For all of those of you who are interested in joining us next year or potentially joining us, before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you need captioning, you can access that by clicking the CC button at the bottom of the screen. And if you require ASL interpreting, pin the interpreter by hovering your mouse over the interpreter's box and clicking pin. Okay, so that should make things accessible for everyone. Okay, just to give you a little sense of what we're going to do this evening, and we shouldn't be more than half an hour or so, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. You can also post questions in the chat box as we go, and we'll pick those up at the end of our presentation. I'm Connie Mayer. I'm a professor in the Faculty of Education and one of the academic coordinators in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program.
And I'm Pam Millett, and I'm one of the other faculty members in the program.
And I'm Melanie Simpson, and I'm a practicum facilitator in the program.
And just before we get started, I'm going to turn things over to Pam to do the territory acknowledgement.
Thank you, Connie. So as this meeting is virtual, we encourage you to reflect upon the history of the lands on which you are located. We recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Tkaronto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region.
Okay, we're going to kick off by maybe one of the first questions you might have, which is what are the admission requirements for our program? Sort of get your application started, you need to be a member in good standing with the Ontario College of Teachers with no limitations or restrictions. What that really means is everybody that applies to our program already has a certification to be a teacher. You also, by that, would have a BEd degree with a minimum grade point average of B in both your academic and practicum courses. And what's a bit unique about the admission requirements for our program is that you would also have documentation of 2 successfully completed American Sign Language ASL courses at either a recognized college university program or a community-based program such as the Canadian Hearing Services.
Overview of the program, and this information is on our website, so we really encourage you to go and have a look at the website for further information. But as an overview, the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Education program is in its own category with the Ontario College of Teachers. It's a bit different than most additional qualifications that you may have taken. It is an accredited one-year university program. It is not a 3-part AQ. So you will, if you are an OCT member, you will be familiar with the additional qualification process. We are not a 3-part AQ. We are a one-year university program. So York awards a post-baccalaureate diploma in the education of deaf and hard of hearing students upon graduation. This diploma is then accepted by the OCT as meeting the requirements for the OCT qualification teaching students who are deaf or hard of hearing. This post-baccalaureate diploma is also generally accepted, though, as deaf and hard of hearing teaching qualifications nationally or internationally. So upon completion with the program, you have a post-baccalaureate diploma as well as OCT accreditation as a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. It is very much in its structure and its processes, it is very similar to a BEd program. So we'll talk a little bit more about courses and practicum.
And Pam just mentioned, we'll talk about the courses in the practicum. It is, those of you who are in our, will be taking this program or interested in it, as Pam said, it's very much like a BED program, which all of you have done maybe recently or a little bit longer ago. And like a BED program, we have a set of core courses that you would take. And for our program, that includes these 6 courses: educational ideology, 2 language and literacy development courses, both of which are full courses, which gives you some idea of how much emphasis we put on language and literacy in the program. An introduction to deaf studies, and it's really an introduction to the program as well. The educational use of signed language, and the teaching and learning practicum seminar, which is the course that's attached to the practicum, which you'll be hearing more about from Melanie a little bit later on.
And for those of you who have been out of the university environment for a little while, a 3.0 credit course is a one-term course, so a fall term course or a winter term course. And a one-term course at York University is 36 hours. So the 3.0 courses are 36 hours of coursework. A 6.0 course is 72 hours of coursework. In addition, oh, sorry. My goodness. In addition to the core components, there are also enhanced course components. There are 6 of those, and you have a choice of 3. These are all taught in the winter term, and they are American Sign Language, which is not a learning how to sign course. It is ASL Linguistics. Bilingual bicultural education, classroom amplification, deaf studies, culture and community, listening and speaking for students who are deaf or hard of hearing, and teaching students who are deaf or hard of hearing in inclusive settings. So you would have a choice of 3 of those 6 courses, with some caveats.
And the caveats Pam was talking about are some of those 6 courses are taught in American Sign Language as the language of instruction. So those 2 courses are ASL Linguistics and Bilingual Bicultural Education, as well as the Deaf Studies Culture and Community course. So in fact, there are 3 courses that are taught in American Sign Language, but 2 of them, you need to have a language proficiency level in ASL to take them. And those 2 are ASL Linguistics and Bilingual Bicultural Education. The thinking behind that is that those courses, for example, to study ASL Linguistics, you need to have enough ASL fluency to know what it is you're studying. You wouldn't be studying Italian linguistics if you didn't already have some knowledge of Italian. And the Bilingual Bicultural Education course is the course that teaches you how to work in a sign bilingual setting. Typically in Ontario, that's a school for the deaf, so that the language of instruction at the school for the deaf is ASL. So we would expect that you had proficiency in the language of instruction. So to take those 2 enhanced course components, there is a language proficiency requirement, which is a level 3 or higher on an assessment called the ASL-PI. We can tell you more about that if you're one of those individuals that thinks you have that skill level or that's an interest area for you. We can tell you more about that particular assessment and what a level 3 looks like. But we just need you to know that that is something you need to be aware of if that's a path that you're interested in, and that you are responsible for getting that assessment done and providing evidence of that skill level for us as part of your moving through the program if you want to take those courses.
Oh, if you've had a look at the website, you will see that it's possible to take the program in one of 2 ways. One is as a full-time student, so we'll talk about what that would look like, and then we'll talk about what the part-time options look like. And so for the full-time program, it is very much like a BED program, completed over 1 year. So it is completed over 1 academic year, from sort of the 3rd week in August until the end of April, beginning of May. Again, courses begin the 3rd week of August. And so a 1 year program, the core courses would be completed over the fall and winter terms, and the enhanced courses are completed in the winter term. So very much like what you would have experienced in another university program.
And
How do
full-time,
full-time, sorry?
sorry, Pam, go ahead. You take care
Oh.
of full-time, I'll do part-time.
Okay. Sorry, we should have organized ourselves better. How do full-time students attend class? And so we are offering courses synchronously online. So full-time students are expected to attend class, which means attending Zoom classes synchronously. There are some courses that may require on-campus attendance, but the majority of the program for full-time students in terms of coursework is completed synchronously online on Zoom. There are also a variety of online asynchronous activities for the full-time and the part-time students that they would do together, and we'll talk in a minute about how the full-time and the part-time cohorts interact to complete the program. And there are, as you know, usual these days, course websites that have all of the materials that you would need, and that's the platform where you would interact with your fellow students.
The part-time program, as Pam said, is back in the day, we're a full-time program sort of more than 30 years ago when this program started. Now, as we've moved into 2024 with all the different options of online and post-COVID, we have a really robust part-time program, which is typically completed in 3 years. However, you can take longer, and many students do for various reasons. Life happens, babies are born, people have to organize their work schedules in ways that it takes them more than 3 years, but we like to see you finish within 5. The course requirements that we've already spoken about are the same for the full and part-time students, as well as the practicum requirements. Things may be more individualized for our part-time students, and Melanie will talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Again, as for our full-time students, everything is completed mostly online. The difference is that our part-time students participate in everything asynchronously. So they're not attending the classes synchronously with us as we're doing right now. Rather, those classes are recorded and our part-time students watch them later. And the other thing about our part-time program in that list of courses you saw is we're quite prescriptive about how you complete them. You don't just pick and choose. We set it out in terms of curriculum development so that you really don't have to do much choosing. We kind of tell you in year 1, you will be doing this, year 2, the next set of courses, and year 3, the next set. That being said, you do get to choose among those 3 enhanced course components. That is a choice that you do have to make in the courses that you take. And as I said, you're being the same class as the full-time students. That's what Pam was referring to when saying you kind of interact on the course website. So everyone that takes, for example, audiology with Pam in year 1, all of the first-year full-time students and first-year part-time students are all together in that class. So they become the year 1 audiology class. And then those classes that Pam teaches are recorded, and the part-time students just watch them after the fact during the week when they can get to it. But they complete all of the same activities and follow-up work and assignments, and the expectations are exactly the same for our full and part-time students. It's just the way that they engage with the class is different, and that our full-time students are taking the full course load, where our part-time students would be taking it over 3 years. So when they get to year 2, they're going to be with a different cohort of first-year students for their second-year courses. So that's kind of how we keep interaction going in the program for our part-time students across the 3 years that they're with us.
So when do I have to be on campus? We've mentioned there may be some times when you need to be on campus as a part-time student. We do have one course, Classroom Amplification, which is a course that I teach that is essentially the hearing technology, FM systems, assistive technology, that kind of thing. And As the course director, I feel very strongly that it's important to have your hands on the equipment in order to learn, not just read about how to use a particular system. Um, and so there is an on-campus attendance requirement for that, with some flexibility for students, individual students situations, for example, students who are out of province. So there is some time where you're on campus if you're taking the course in the winter term for part-time students, because most of our part-time students are teaching during the day. That's why they're doing the part-time program. We offer classroom amplification every summer over a week when you would come to campus and do the on-campus components. I think we feel very strongly about the way that our part-time program is structured, in that it is not a typical text-only online course, that there is a great deal. You have a cohort, you have fellow students, and you have lots of interaction as you work through the course with the rest of the students in the class.
And part-time students complete the program typically taking, again, if they finish in 3 years or 5 years, 1 to 2 courses per term. So Pam was saying to a term is either the fall term or the winter term. So in each of those terms, you would take 1 or 2 courses as a part-time student. And we just like to signal to you, so you know what you're getting into, that each course that you would take equates to about 6 hours of work per week. That's kind of the class time, the watching, the recorded lectures, doing the follow-up work, assignments, etc. So each course is 6 hours. So if you're taking really tricky math here, if you're taking 2 courses, that's going to be about 12 hours a week you have to think about making space for in your schedule if you're a part-time student. As we already mentioned, the courses are taken by part-time students in a prescribed order, and practicum occurs in the 3rd year of the program. We think, a really engaging, interesting program, and we try and make it as interactive as we can, as Pam said, for our part-time students. Because we do all of that with the program, it's really not possible to fast track or complete it in less than 3 years. It's kind of a 3-year minimum you need, and we like to say a 5-year maximum.
So I think these days everyone is quite comfortable with online learning. If you're here tonight, you've mastered Zoom. So there is no special software or technology that you would need to order. If you can arrive today and participate in our info night, then you have everything that you need. We do have course websites for all of the courses to help manage all the materials and to provide a platform for you to interact. There's a mobile device version of that. And so it is in that way, nothing special that you need as a part-time student. So we'll turn this over to Melanie, our practicum supervisor.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. So practicum is always the part of the program where people are most curious about, usually, and we also feel very strongly it's a very important and integral aspect of our program. You must successfully complete all aspects of the practicum to graduate. And so whether you're a full-time student or a part-time student, practicum still consists of 400 hours in total. And it can be completed in 2 practicum blocks of 4 weeks each, but also there are some additional single observation days. And we just feel like, as we're trying to give you lessons in theory, it's really important for you to get out and also see the students that you're going to be working with and have a placeholder for all of the things that you're learning. So the Teaching and Learning Seminar course that runs alongside the practicum is a place where we begin and settle into the practicum in September and get you set up to be successful for going out in the first fall practicum. And we follow through into the winter term. This is in the full-time program or in 3rd year of the part-time program. We follow through into the winter term so that you're ready by the time you're finished all your coursework, you're completing your 2nd practicum. So practicum can be tricky. We're a very small field and we call on a lot of the mentor teachers that help us out each year over a number of times, much more than a typical classroom teacher. We do our best to accommodate your preferences in geographical location, but we can only offer you what the school boards and the mentor teachers offer us. So you may need to travel, and even just within a district where a school board is located, but also it could be that we ask you to travel somewhere in order just to have a practicum. And if that happens, whatever travel you do, you'll always be responsible for your own transportation and accommodations, just as being just part of being a student in the program. For the most part, we're able to get practicum placements near where you live, but that's just a little caveat in case something doesn't come available. You can't find your own practicum placements. We ask you never to interfere in the process. There's a lot of background stuff that happens at the school board level, and that's my role to make sure that the school boards have everything they need before they start asking mentor teachers and finding volunteers to work with us. But the likelihood is very good that you will be connected with a wonderful mentor teacher. We have a lot of people who step forward. We love working with them. They love having students if they volunteered. So if you leave it to me, we'll have a successful experience in setting you into a place where you'll thrive. York practicum facilitators do site visits. I'm not the only one. We come in and watch you, and it's not the mentor teacher who evaluates you at all. It's the mentor teacher provides mentorship, and we as practicum facilitators come in and provide the pass-fail evaluations. So how do full-time students complete the practicum? For everyone in the program, the practicum is arranged individually with each student by the practicum facilitators. And so, as I said, if you're registered in the Teaching and Learning Seminar course, we set time aside first thing in September to have a good long conversation about your situation, where you're located, what your expertise is, where your interests lie, what your language proficiencies are, all of that. We take that into consideration as we arrange a practicum that suits you best with what we're offered, obviously, from the school boards. The first practicum block, as I mentioned earlier, happens at the end of the first term, so November, December, and the second practicum block is completed after you've completed all of your coursework in the program in April and May. How do part-time students complete the practicum? Once again, we sit down with you if you're registered in the Teaching and Learning course, seminar course. We sit down for a good long conversation, do the same thing we've done with the full-time students, and we look at your situation, where you're working, where you live, and we arrange practicum based on the information that you provide to us. All of the practicum requirements are exactly the same for full-time students and part-time students. So sometimes it will involve taking a leave if you're currently working, but we look at each individual situation. As I said, we have a long conversation about where you're at, who you're working with. Both practicum placements do not have to be completed in the same year, even though you might be registered and participating in the practicum course all year long. It's possible that taking two isn't ideal for your own situation, and that's something else that we look at. And you can roll that second practicum into the fourth year of the program or fifth year, depending on where you're at, if it doesn't work for you to do two. But if you're enrolled in the Teaching and Learning Seminar, you must complete one practicum during that time.
So again, oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll finish it off. I guess applications, that's what everybody's wondering about. The application package is available on the website mid-December. So that's what you should be looking for, a mid-December opening for the application package. And they are due March 21st, 2025.